Yeah, good morning, all of you. So fine. So last day we have been talking on properties, right? Properties, which has been defined properties in our code. Remember, we defined five properties. Yeah, we defined five properties actually. What are the five? ID, name, status, balance, city. Finally, enumerated property. Finally, what we defined is the enumerated property, and I said you enumerated properties are properties which are defined with a list of values to choose from. You can pick a value from that list. It'll give you a list. From that list, you can pick one value. Yeah, you can pick a value from the list. That's where we stopped it, guys. Next, I want to define a property called as state. I want to define a state property. Okay. State, actually, I want a string property, guys. Putting a comma here, underscore state. And here, let me initialize underscore state is equals to Karnataka. Underscore state is equals to Karnataka. And come here, I'm writing public string state. Public string state. I want a read rate property. So simply writing get return underscore state and set underscore state is equals to val. Okay. So just a simple read rate property. Nothing more to talk on this. Now come here. And here I'm writing console dot write line customer state. What are the customer state? Obj dot state. Right now the value is Karnataka. We just assigned the value Karnataka. Yeah. I want to change it. Obj dot state is equals to Telangana. Modified state. Okay. So you can see Telangana. So I'm just getting the value correctly now. So no issues with this. Everything is fine. A simple property, nothing to explain more on this. Guys, have a look. The property is declared as public here. When the property is declared as public, anyone can get and anyone can set a value to it. Because the property is declared as public, anyone can get and anyone can set a value to it. Anyone can get the value, anyone can set the value. No restrictions at all. Okay, because you declared the property as public. But remember, I can get anyone can get and anyone can set the value for it. No doubts about this. But one small thing to understand here. What is that? See, if you focus on this carefully, if you just focus on this carefully, I have a requirement, a typical requirement. What is that? Get should be accessible to everyone. Get should be accessible to everyone. But set should be accessible only to child classes. Did you get my point? Get should be accessible to everyone, but set should be accessible to child classes. So that's my requirement. But once declared as public, anyone can get, anyone can set. To resolve this problem, guys, earlier we used to write two separate properties like this. We used to write two separate properties like this. Watch carefully. Write a property called get state. Okay. remove the setter. Now see, it's a read-only property, right? It is a read-only property. Why we have only getter? So read-only property and declared as public. So who can get the value? Anyone can get the value. But coming here, protected string set state. Now see now, this is a write-only property. Write-only property because we have only setter. Who can set the value? Only child classes because you declared as protected now. So who can get the value? Louder. Anyone can get the value. Who can set the value? Only child classes can set the value. Getting can be done by anyone and setting can be done only by child classes. Did you understand now? My requirement is like that only. What is that? I want anyone to get the value, but setting should be done only by child class. For example, say you use the IRCTC website. In the IRCTC website, you're not registered in the website. Even though you're not registered in the website, you can see the availability status of a train. Yes or not? Even though you are not having a registration in the IRCTC, you can see the availability status. Means availability status is accessible to everyone now. But you click on book ticket, then it will ask you to log in. So who can book a ticket? Only members of the IRCTC can book the ticket. Who can view the status? Anyone can view. That's what. Means get should be public, but set should only be child classes. Means only for members. Are you getting my point here? So that's what exactly the requirement I have. So we used to write two separate properties like this. One is a get state and second one is set state. So get is public and set is protected. But from C# 2.0, they added as a new feature. What is that? Without writing two separate properties, one get property, one set properties and all. Now you can directly do this. What do you know? Protected set. This feature was added from C# 2.0. You can apply scope on accessors. Earlier we can apply scope only on property, but now you can apply scope on accessors. On the accessors. Now you see, you did not say anything for getter, so it is public. But when you come to set, you said protected. So it is accessible only to child classes. See now guys, go to test customer, an error is waiting there. Earlier this worked. Earlier this worked na, but now it is giving you error. It is an error. You can't do this. Cannot be modified because current class is not a child of customer. Not a child of customer. Who can do that? Only child classes. So I need to comment this, guys. If I don't comment, it's an error now. Understood all of you? So this is a feature which was added in C# 2.0. So guys, remember, this is also a read-write property with different scope, to each property or each accessor, introduced in 2.0 version. Okay now? So this is also a read-write property. Yeah. If you understand, I'm writing each property in a different style. So different things. Here see, we written a condition in set. Here we written a condition in get and set. Here we gone for a enumerated property. And here with a different scope to each property access. Next, I want to define a property called as country. Actually, if you want to define a property, what is the process you are following? First, you are declaring a field. Next, you are initializing the field in the constructor. First, you are declaring a field. Next, you are initializing the field in the constructor. Third thing, what you are doing is you are defining the property. 3 steps. Declare one field. Initialize the field. Then you are writing a property. 3 steps. But from can't I define a property without a field? Can't I define a property? See, I want to define a country property. So what should I do first? First, it should come here and say underscore country. Next, I should initialize that underscore country is equals to India. then I should write the property. Are you following my point here? Without declaring this field, and without initializing this, can't we write a property? How do you write, sir? Because inside the get and set, you are referring to field only. But if the field is not there, what logic can we implement there now? So that will be a doubt. Suppose, for example, I'm writing public string country. Now tell me, did I declare a field? Come on, fast. I said you that only respond. Did I declare a field? No, field is not declared. When field is not declared, you're writing a property, you're trying to write a property. Then what logic are you going to implement in this? Because there is no field, guys. We simply write get set. This is basically called as a automatic or auto implemented property. This is automatic or auto implement. This is also read write only. This is also read write property, but automatic or auto implemented. So this is called as an automatic or an auto implemented property. So here we don't require to write anything in the get and anything in the set. Simply get set. Why? Field is not there. So now you'll have a doubt. So when field is not there, then how to initialize this? Actually, initialization is done on the field only. How to initialize this? Now what you can do, you can directly go to the constructor and initialize the property only. You can directly initialize the property only. Field not there, na? So straight away what you are assigning now? Property only. We are just trying to initialize now. So this is called as a automatic or an auto implemented property. So these are introduced in C# 3.2. These are introduced in C# 3.2. What do we call them? I said you open the mouths here. Don't you feel shame here? Every day making me to scold you. So open up here. Louder. Automatic or auto implemented property. Okay, so this is what we call as automatic or a auto implemented property. So they introduced in 3.2 version, 3.0 version. But actually in 3.0 when they are launched, there is a drawback. There is a problem. What is that? What the problem is? If you wanted to write an automatic or auto implemented property, if you want to write an automatic or auto implemented property, it is mandatory. You're required to write both get and set. It is mandatory. You're required to write both get and set. Why? I want read only. Even though you want to read only, you can't remove the set. Why you can't remove? Because if set is removed, you cannot initialize this in the constructor. See, you're setting a value here. See. So if set is removed, we cannot initialize this inside the constructor. So mandatory, you need to write both the getter as well as setter also. You can't escape from this. You can't escape from this. But I want read only. Out of the class, this should be read only. But right now, this is read only or read write? This is read write. This is read write. But I want read only. So for read only, I want to remove set. But if you're automatic, it should be having get and set also. And finally, so then how can I define a read only property? You can use the previous feature now. You can use the previous feature. Simple. Come here, say private. So once you say private, out of the class setter is not accessible now. So out of the class, what is accessible? Only get. So out of the class, the property is read only now. Okay. So this is the country. Customer country. Guys, it's read only. Remember that. Now, basically, this looks very simple and easy. This looks very simple and easy, but you cannot use these automatic or auto implemented properties every time. When can I use? I can use these properties only. I can use these properties only when there is no extra logic inside the property block. When there is no extra logic in the get or the set accessor. See, when you come to state, can I define this as automatic? Oh, I actually missed something, guys. Here, what did I say? In every setter, there should be a condition. Na? We missed it. If underscore status, then underscore state is equals to. Now look, can I define state as an automatic property? No. Why? Automatic, how do you write this condition now? So when is additional logic present, you can't use a automatic or auto implemented property. State cannot be automatic. What about city? No chance. City also cannot be. Balance. Come on fast. Yes or no? No. There also conditions are there. Name. No. There also conditions are there. Status. Yes. Status can be automatic. Why? No conditions there. No conditions there. Customer ID. Yes, sir. No, that's all. Yes. Why you're telling no? Yes. No conditions now. When conditions are there only, you can't. Conditions are not there now. So this also can be automatic. Customer ID can be automatic. Status can be automatic. Next, country also automatic. But what is the drawback? I said you should write both get and set also. Get and set should be implemented. Otherwise, if set is not there, initializing this property in the constructor will not be possible. So finally, in C# 6.0, guys, in C# 6.0, this property was resolved. Sorry, this drawback was resolved. This problem was solved. What problem? Writing both get and set is solved. How? Watch it. Public string continent. Public string continent. I'm only writing get. There is no set. If there is no set, you cannot assign a value in the constructor now. If there is no set, you cannot assign a value in the constructor now. So that's a problem. Okay. So to overcome this problem, they added as a feature called as auto property initializers version 6.2. Auto property initializer version 6.0. What is that? Problem is initialization only now. Initialization can be directly done like this now. Initialization can be directly done like this. Directly on the property definition only, initialization code can be implemented. No need to go to constructor to initialize. The initialization can be performed straight away on that particular line. And we call this as a auto property initializer. So now your property is read only, guys. Remember that. So this is also read only and this is also read only. Okay. So this is a read only property. This is a read only property. Both are read only properties only. Are you clear? So this is added in C# 2.0. This is added in C# 3.0 and this is added in C# 6.0. New features coming into picture. Now come here and customer continent. Dot continent. Okay. State, country, continent, all the values. So this is how you write the properties here. I shown you 8 properties totally, writing them in different styles. Writing them in different styles and shown you different features that have been added. So from now onwards, remember, what is that? Whenever you're defining a class, and if your class is associated with any values, expose them by defining properties. Expose them by defining properties. That's the thumb rule all of you should remember. Another area, these properties will be helpful to you is, these properties will be helpful to you is, watch, I'll show you another example where the properties will help you. Watch this. Let me write a new class here. We'll name the class as test student. Test student. In this, I am defining a public class. I'm defining a public class student. And now this class student, guys, this class student is going to have the attributes of a student. Attributes of a student. What are the attributes? ID, name, class, marks, fees. I want to initialize these attributes in a mix and match combination. I want to initialize these attributes in a mix and match combination. Sometimes only ID, sometimes ID and class, sometimes ID and name. Remember, I explained you this concept for you in constructor overloading when you want to initialize them in a mix and match combination. Can anyone remember this one? How many constructors should I define now? How many constructors should I define in my code if I want to initialize the fields in a mix and match combination? Wrong, Ahmad. 5 constructors you will initialize in a mix and match combination. Did not understand. 2 or 3? What 2 or 3? What are you reading here? This is why I am scolding you every day, brainless fellows. On the constructor overloading class, I very clearly explained you the concept called you 2 power n, where n is the number of fields. How many? Tell me fast. 2 power n is number of fields. 32. Hey, you know, don't know mathematics also. 2 power 5. I very clearly said you this particular problem also. This is a big problem. When you are just going to have n number of fields in this, you're required to add n number of constructors also. You need to initialize them in a mix and match combination. You're required to define on that day. See, we have taken 2 fields and we defined 4 constructors. Only first attribute, only second attribute. First and second attribute, 0 attribute. Totally we defined 4 constructors for 2 fields. Now for 5 fields, how many constructors should be defined now? 32 constructors should be defined. Are you ready? Are you ready to write 32 constructors in the code now? Because tomorrow, if another field adds there, you're required to add another 32 constructors now. If one more new field comes, cover, that's all, 2 power 6 now. 2 power 6 means 32, 2, 64 constructors now. It's not easy writing that many number of constructors now. So you can overcome that problem also with properties. You can you can overcome that problem also with properties without writing 32 constructors. A simple thing you can do is define 5 properties. Without writing 32 constructors, a simple thing is write 5 properties. Yeah, I defined 5 properties in the code now. All are can see. First one ID, second class, name, next marks, finally this. So totally 5 properties are defined in the code now. And did you define any constructor? No, I did not define any constructor. So there will be a implicit default constructor. There will be an implicit default constructor in our code now. Okay, because we did not define any parameterized constructor. If I define constructors, what is the problem? The requirement is mix and match combination of initialization. If the requirement is a mix and match combination of initialization, you need to define 32 constructors as of now for 5 attributes. So that will become a lengthy process. That will become a very lengthy process. You can resolve it with the help of the properties. How, sir? In C# 3.0, guys, in C# 3.0, they added as a feature. What is the feature? Watch. In test student, can I create the instance of the student now? in a test student, can I create the instance of this student now? Come on, I'll create an instance of this student. Student S1 is equals to new student. What constructor do we have in our class? Default constructor. So if I create an instance by using the default constructor, all the fields are initialized with default value. All the fields are initialized with default value. What is the default value? See, question mark is used here. So null. ID class, default value null. Name, default value null. Everything, all 5 default value null only. I want to print them on the screen and show you. I want to print on the screen and show you. And to print, what I'm doing, I am overriding the toString method. I'm overriding the toString method. Yeah, recollect. We already learned about this also. What is it? If you want to print the values associated with an instance, you're required to override toString method in the class. By overriding the toString method in the class, you can print the values associated with the instance. See what I'm printing? ID, name, class, marks, fees. Everything in a new line now. So run the code. Watch. Oh, I did not set the startup object. Read line is missing. Oh, print is missing first. Console dot write line S1 and console dot read line. Watch, all are null values now. Why? Default constructor will initialize the fields of a class either with default value of the type or null values. Either with either with a given set of values or null values. So right now all are null. Okay, but see guys, do we have a parameterized constructor in the code to send values to the attributes? Do we have a parameterized constructor in the code to initialize the attributes? No, we don't have a parameterized constructor. So the constructor is default. We don't have any parameterized constructor to initialize them now. Okay, guys, in C# 3.0, they added as a feature. What is the feature? See, if I need to define parameterized constructors to initialize them in a mix and match combinations, we need 32 constructors. So that is hectic. We can't write that many number of constructors. So to resolve the problem, to resolve this particular problem, what they have done is they introduced as a concept called as object initializers. Object initializers. In C# 3.0, they added the feature. What is it? Object initializers. What is that? You can open your curly braces here. Guys, watch. You can open your curly braces here. And inside of the curly braces, you can, when you open the curly braces, you're getting the list of all the attributes, all the properties are coming, see? You can start initializing them. ID is equals to 101. Name is equals to Raju. Class is equals to marks is equals to fees is equals to. I can initialize them now without a constructor in the code. Run. All are initialized. All are initialized now. So did I define a constructor? No. Without a constructor, I'm able to initialize now. Now guys, what I want to do, I want to initialize ID class, ID name and class. That's all. What I want to initialize ID name and class. But I don't want to initialize marks and fees. So for that, you need a separate constructor now with 3 attributes. What 3? ID, name, class. But guys, without a separate constructor, what you can do, you can create a new instance like this. Watch. 102. Venkat. Class 10. And simply ignore these 2. Don't assign a value. Don't assign a value. Another example, see. I'm going to create one more instance with ID marks and fees. ID, marks and fees. Just a minute. All are mixing up. Just a second. In the last year, let me add a line break. Watch. First, all the 5 are initialized. Second, 3. Remaining 2 are default values. Third, 3. Remaining 2 are default values. If you want to do this, you need 3 constructors in the code now. One constructor initializing all the 5 fields. One constructor initializing 3 fields. One constructor initializing 3 fields. Like this, I want to initialize ID, class, fees. Another constructor. Are you getting me? How many constructors should you define? 32 constructors. But right now, guys, you did not define even a single constructor in your code also. Which constructor is there? Default constructor. And that default constructor only will be used here, and you can initialize them. We call this as what? Object initializers, introduced in C# 3.0. So from now onwards, without defining constructors, better define properties in your code. Did you catch my point? Constructor definition will be very much high, very more number of constructors. But number of properties to define is same to the number of fields. If you have 10 fields, 10 properties enough. But 10 fields, 10 constructors won't be enough here. For 10 fields, you require to define 2 power 10. 2 power 10. But 10 fields, 10 properties. Easy, na? Array, without fields, directly use of automatic properties directly now. Without a field, directly what you can use? Automatic or auto-implemented properties can be directly used up so that you can decrease of the fields also in the code. Only automatic or auto-implemented properties, and straight away you can command initialize all the properties in a mix and match combinations now. So did you understand the beauty of the concept now? So you can avoid writing what tell? You can avoid writing constructors. You can avoid writing constructors in the appropriate code. Constructors are not required for you in the code. No need of writing constructors in the code. What is question mark symbol? Are you attending daily, Chandani? Are you attending to the class regularly or occasionally? Yes sir means yes sir for what? Occasional, huh? What is question mark, guys? What is this use of this question mark? Answer. Nothing on my face. Answer. Nullable. Yeah. It's going to be nullable. If you use question mark, that is nullable. Otherwise, value types are non-nullable. The question mark indicates it is nullable. We already talked on all these things in the data type classes. If I don't use a question mark, it is not nullable. But if I use a question mark, it is nullable. Yeah. So this is the second advantage what you have with properties. What is that? Object initializers. They're introduced in C# 3.0. So if you guys watch this, open your documents, page number 98. Properties. Yeah, here I have just been explaining the concept, what I explained you day before yesterday. Taken a circle class, just circle, what is the drawback of declaring public? Then here you have the information of properties, 3 types of properties: read only, write only, read write. How to define properties in the code? Yeah, how to define properties in your code, syntax to define a property in your code, and then some few important things to remember while defining a properties. All the points I explained you can go through them. Next, some remarks. Okay, and next I started writing all the code. First, cities.cs. You defined a enum with all the values. Then second one, customer.cs. This is a class under which you are writing all the properties. And then we have, yeah, here I given an explanation about what is enumerated properties and all. And then, yeah, enumerated property, next auto implemented property, all these things I explained here. And finally, we have the third class. What is that? Test customer.cs, where I created the instance and called all the properties. All the properties with comments are given, comments for each and every property. What is possible, what is not possible, everything. I shown you a live example to you, and again you're asking where do we use the enum. I shown you now. I want to list the users with the values. I use enum. When I want to list the users with the values, I use enum. Next we have object initializers. Yeah, this is object initializers. Okay, object initializers is also associated with properties only. It is also associated with the properties only. Fine. So it's all about properties and how do you define the properties. So we are done with fields, methods, constructors, finalizers, and right now we completed about properties, all these things. Okay. The next topic, guys, the next topic is indexers. The next member is indexer. What is indexer? Indexers are also like properties. Indexers are also like properties which are used for exposing the values. If you recollect yourself, day before yesterday, when I started the topic here, what did I say? I have a class like this, public class circle. In this class, I'm writing double radius is equals to, I declared it like this, and here I explained you, array, class is public, anywhere you can create the instance, but field is not accessible out of the class, it is private. And then our requirement is to how to give access to the value outside. Option number 1, declare it as public. Option number 2, define a property. Which one is better? Public or property? Declaring it public is better, writing property is better. Property. The best option is defining a property. Why? Public means you don't have control on the value, but property means you have a complete control on the value. You can write conditions in the code, read only access, write only access, read write access. All the things can be done. Are you clear? So this is what you can just define a property, and property is the best option. Property is the best option. Then public field. Okay. So we already discussed on the appropriate thing, properties. And guys, apart from a public field, apart from a property, there is another way you can expose the value. On the day I said you guys, there are multiple options are available, I said you. Till now I said you 2 options. What are the 2 options? One is public field. Second one is private field associated with the property. Private field associated with the property. Third option is indexer. We have third option, and the third option is indexer. So indexers are also used for exposing the values that are associated with the class to the outside environment only. Okay. So that's why yesterday, did you remember yesterday when we got an error message, it's shown you property or indexer. Then I said you ignore or indexer. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I said you. What it shown you? Property or indexer. These both are same only. So what is indexer? This is a member of the class using which we can expose the values of a class to the outside environment. This is a member of the class using which we can expose the values of a class to the outside environment. You can expose the values to the outside environment. Okay. So this is possible. You can expose the values to the outside environment. And very importantly, environment just like a property. Just like property. Okay. So then what is the difference? I'll show you what is the difference. See guys, I defined you a class called customer here and with attributes for a customer, and defined you writing properties. Same like this. Now let us define a class employee with attributes of a employee, and then we'll try to understand how to define the indexers. Okay, watch. Now my entity is employee, guys. I'm writing a class here called test employee. Observe everyone. My class is test employee. And here I am writing public class. Yeah, look, my entity is employee now. Now declare all the attributes of a employee. All the attributes of an employee. How many attributes you want for an employee? Declare them. And also write one constructor. You know this code, no explanations. Watch. Employee number, status, salary, name and job. Next, constructor, initializing all the fields. And what I said you guys in the properties class, I said you, actually all these values will come from database. But because we don't know how to work with the database, I'm assigning static values. In the future, all these values will come from database. Now look at this code. This code is exactly same like the code customer class only now. This class is exactly same like customer class only. You can see that it is same as the customer class. No difference. Okay. But in customer class, you defined properties. You did not define properties here still. But fields are there. Constructor there, everything we defined as it is like the customer class. Okay. Now also, come here. Static void main. Remember guys, the class employee is public, so I can create an instance here. Pass an employee number. Pass an employee number. But problem repeats again. What is the problem? You're not able to access the members of the class. All are private members. You're not able to access. From here only we started yesterday customer. So what we done? I want to expose the values. First I showed you, write public and I shown you. When I write public, get set access is coming. Alright, this is wrong. And then what we done? We changed off the public field to private field. And then we defined a property on that now. Okay, two options clear. Public. Second, properties. Now I'm showing you the third option. What is the third option? The third option is indexer. What is this indexer? Look carefully. By defining these indexers in a class, we can provide access to the private fields of that class. We can provide access to the private fields of the class. Access to the private fields of that class, just like an array. Just like an array. What is that just like an array? You have an array. The array contains 5 elements in it. How do you access? You have an array and 5 elements in this. How do you access the values? By using? Are you interested in the class or not? Don't you know how to work with an array? Answer the question. Shift to all of you. Divide the corners and remove your mask. I'm not able to see your faces. Corner. First. You two. You sit in the middle. You sit in the middle. You corner still, first seat. Tell me, how do you access the values of an array? By using array, yaar. How do you access array values? By using? Shame on your part here. Based fellows, array values are accessed by index here. Minimum common sense, you don't know how to just access the array value by using index. Yeah, I'm telling you, you're sitting in the class and you shame on yourself. Online students are faster than you, even though they're not directly listening to the class. How do you access array values? Yeah, basic thing that is. Why are you coming to the class? I don't understand. Irritating me every day. The most worst batch I'm experiencing in my life. You access the array values by using a index. So now also I'm telling the same thing only. What is it? By defining these indexers in a class, we can provide access to the private fields of that class just like an array. Means, how do you access them? By using index. By using index, you can access them now. How? Watch. Console.writeLine. Employee ID. And now EMP is the object now. EMP of 0. I can access the value like this now. But error coming now. Yeah, you get error now. Why? You did not define an indexer in the code now. What I said you? By defining indexer. I did not define the indexer now. Indexers are not defined in the code. So by defining indexer, you can do that. Means the rest of all the values also, you can access it like this. Name, class, employee, job, salary, status. ID, name, job, salary, status. Then this should be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now understand, assume EMP is an array. Assume EMP is an array. And the array contains 5 values in it now. How do you pick? By using the indexes. And as of now, all the 5 are giving error. Why? Because you did not define a array in your, indexer in the code. So what did they say? By defining these indexes, after defining that only we can do. Without defining, you can't access like this. By defining indexers in a class, we can provide access to the private fields of that class just like an array. Just like an array, you can provide access to the values. Okay. So how to define this indexer? The way you define an indexer is just like how you define a property. How you define a property? Modifiers, type, name, here you write get, statements. What do you call this? Get accessor. Next, set statements. Yeah, we call this as a set accessor. This is called as a get accessor and this is called as a set accessor. Get and set accessors now. Okay. So this is a get and this is a set accessor. Fine. Now, you understand properties are defined like this. Even the indexers are also defined like this one. We define indexers also like this only. Only thing is we don't have a name here. What we say, we use this keyword. This keyword means current class. What is the meaning? You are defining an indexer on the current class. You are defining an indexer on the current class so that the class starts behaving like a array. The class starts behaving like an array. So it's not an array, but behaves like an array. It's not an array, but behaves like an array. We generally call this as virtual array. Virtual means it's not an array, but behaves like an array. Okay. But see, we need a parameter, guys. Int index. Why? Array, we are passing here na 0, 1, 2, 3. That should be the parameter for this. That's all. except that everything is same only. Getter, setter, all the things like a property. Only thing in the place of name, what you write? This, and you are passing a parameter int index. Now come here, and now I'm writing the code. Watch. I'm defining an indexer now. Watch. Public. See here? EMP of 0 should return what? Louder. Employee, which data type? ID, which data type? Int, employee of 1. Tell me data type. String 2. String 3. Double 4. Boolean. So we are just going to have the appropriate data type now. Means the result what is coming is not same type na. Integer, string, double, boolean. So here I'm writing object, guys. Public object. Object this int index. Observe this, all of you. Public object this int index. Okay. Virtual means you learned views in SQL. A view is called as a virtual table. What is a virtual table? Means it is not a table but behaves like a table. It is not a table but behaves like a table. Same way, virtual array means it is not an array but behaves like an array. That is what the meaning of it. Virtual array means not an array but behaves like array. Okay. Now I'm writing get here. I'm writing get. Okay. See the code. If you are writing properties, for 5 attributes, 5 properties are required. But here 5 are not required. Not required? No. See how beauty the code is? If index is equals to 0. If index is equals to 0, return underscore employee number. Else if index is equals to 1, return underscore name. Else if index is equals to 2, return underscore job. Else if index is equals to 3, return underscore salary. Okay. Else if index is equals to 4, return underscore status. Else return. You give a wrong index, null will come now. If you give a wrong index, what you'll get now? Null. See guys, I've written the getter only. I did not write setter. Setting is not possible. Only getting, read only. This is read only. And you see now the code, no errors here now. No errors. Try to run your code and see. But it's not an array, but behaves like an array now. Now your class is working like an array. So you can just provide the indexes and get. This indexer is predefined or user defined? Array, the indexer is now predefined or user defined? User defined. I defined my index. Because you defined your index on your own, it is not mandatory like you need to start from 0. You don't require to. I want to give my own indexes. I want to give it as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. No props. If you feel 0 based index is confusing, start from. See, now here also we can use the same thing. Generally 0 based indexes will be confusing. Tomorrow, if you have 100 values, if you want to get the 76th value, your record is 75 there. That will be a little bit confusing. So start from 1 only. If you start from 1, which one you want, that only you will give as an index now. Okay. So now, you see now, I changed off the index positions. I can give whatever I want. That's my choice. And not only this, guys, not only this. What you know? The parameter here need not be integer only. Need not be integer. Means tomorrow I want to access the values by using a character. A should give employee number, B should give state name, C should give salary, D should give job, and E should give status. Or I want to write like this: 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Understood my point here? So what I'm trying to tell is the data type need not be integer. Just to first to make you understand, I've written int here, guys, but not int. What you know? You can use anything as a parameter. For example, watch. Watch this. Right now you're passing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So confusion is what is 1, what is 2, what is 3, what is 4, what is 5. You should remember all these things. Without that, a best way you can define the code, you know, watch. Right here, string name. What is this? This is attribute index and this attribute name now. Okay, now how do you write the code? If name is equals to, you can give the name here now. You can give the name here now. The name can be given here now. Name is equals to, what is that? Employee number. Name is equals to name. Name is equals to job. Name is equals to salary. And name is equals to. Now guys, you overloaded the indexes. Remember, overloading is 5 types. Method overloading, constructor overloading, operator overloading. I said you all these things. And fourth one is indexer overloading, and fifth one is deconstructor overloading. This is called indexer overloading. I overloaded the indexers now. See guys, watch. Plus slash n. All of you observe, it's overloaded indexer. When you try to open the curly brace, it will show you. One of two. One takes int index, 2 takes string name. Now you can pass your name also here. Employee number. Here. Name. Here. Job. Salary. Status. Got the same output. But actually, with the string and char indexes, we have a problem. With the numeric indexers, no problem, guys. But with numeric indexer problem is you require to remember that exact position. With the string indexes, we have a problem. What is the problem? We don't require to remember the exact positions now. I want to get salary directly. Where is salary present? 0 or 1 or 2 or no need. Salary directly. Problem is case sensitiveness. Problem is case sensitiveness. Tomorrow, if at all I'm just trying to give name like this, or if I try to write salary like this, or if I try to write, say I did not follow the cases now, I won't get the values. You followed ID and status cases are followed, but remaining cases are not followed. So problem with the first case is, you must remember exactly the positions. Second case is case sensitiveness. So you can resolve this problem. How to resolve? User is sending a value what? E number. This will come to name. So do one thing. Convert the name into uppercase. And then compare with uppercase values now. You entered in Pascal case. Am I correct? But when the value comes here, it will convert into uppercase now. And then comparison will be done on an uppercase value. So follow the same technique for all the things now. Now, if user enters in uppercase or lowercase or Pascal case or any hybrid case, it executes the code now. See, all my comparisons are done in upper. all my comparisons in upper. See now, even the written in hybrid case like this, I'll get it, see? Okay. And okay, like this you can just do. Same way, character index is also same problem. You can just go for doing this. Now, look at this, all of you. How many indexes you defined now? 2 indexes, overloaded. But in both the 2 cases, we defined only getter. There is no setter. So read only. So the read only now. See, try to assign a value. Watch it, all of you. EMP of 3 is equals to, EMP of 3 is equals to, I'm trying to assign a value, senior manager. Okay. And EMP of, here I'm writing salary is equals to 30,000. But right now, guys, if you try to check, both are errors. It's the same error what I explained you yesterday with read-only properties. Recollect. Property are you clear? Both are same. Cannot be assigned to. It is, why? You defined only getter. You did not define a setter. And all of you, I will write a setter. But did you guys understand why did I use object here? Without using int or double or float. Why did I use object? Because the values that are coming out are different types. Integer, string, double, boolean. So then if I write integer, remaining will not work. If I write double, remaining will not work. But if I take object, everything will work because anything can be converted to object. So now in this context, value will be which type? In every property we have value now. Array, value parameter. Value will be which type? Object type. Array, the previous examples I shown you now. Type of the property only will come. So in this case, value will be of which type? Object type. Okay. Now guys, observe how to write the set code. Set. If index is equals to 1. If index is equals to 1. You need to assign it to e number now. E number is equals to int of value. Did you understand why did I use this int of? Because this is an object. Watch. Put your mouse there. Object. So converting into integer and then assign to e number. Otherwise error will come here. Conversion is required. Same. Else if index is equals to 2, underscore name is equals to string of value. Else if index is equals to 3, underscore job is equals to string of value. Else if index is equals to 4, underscore salary, salary is equals to, salary which type? Double of value. It is going to be double of value. Next. Else if index is equals to 5, underscore status is equals to bool of value. So now you need to do the type conversions explicitly now. Why? Because the value is which type? Object type. Why object? Because our indexer is object. Value also will be object only. So conversions are mandatory. See now, after doing this, first one is no error. First one is valid, but second one is giving error. Because why? Because you written setter only for int indexer. You did not write a setter for string indexer still. So copy. Paste here. Just a second. Yeah. What did I do here? I performed an uppercase comparison and compared the values now. Same way here also. Not only uppercase here, if you want, you can convert into lowercase also. Is equals to, and write the values in lowercase here now, e number. Either convert into uppercase and compare with uppercase, or convert into lowercase and compare with lowercase. Your choice. Come on, convert it. This is name, job, salary, status, salary status. Now see, setter works in both the two cases. Modified C. And see, because I converted, here even I write in any case also it will work. Upper case also it will work, Pascal case also it will work, everything will work. Because same like this, can you define a char indexer in the code? Can you define a char indexer in the code? A, B, C, D, E. A should return number, B should return name, C should return job, D should return salary, E should return status. Write a char indexer. Actually, guys, okay, I already defined a char indexer in your code. In the notes, I defined a char indexer. What you will do, you define a string indexer. In the classroom, I shown you a string indexer. In the notes, I given you char indexer. So what I'm giving you to ask is, you have a char indexer in the code already. So what you define now is a string indexer. You define string indexer now. Don't try char indexer. Char indexer is already there. Go for a string indexer. See now, how many indexers are there? 2. One is int indexer, one is string indexer. Okay. So for example, see guys, all of you, if you go to the string class, generally, if you go to the string class, string, right click on this and say go to definition. Observe it, all of you. There is an indexer in the code, see. If you pass the index position, it returns the character. str is equals to hello world. Now I'm saying str of 4. str of 4 means it will return you the character in the 4th position now. Return type is char. So this is an indexer. See now, this is a property. This is a indexer. So like this, you are being defined with different things in your code. You can read the summary also there. Okay. So properties will be present in the class. Indexers will be present in the class. Methods will be present. Constructors will be present. Everything will be present for you within your class. So this is indexer and this is property. Okay. So now we'll generally get it out. Why do we define, when should I define a indexer? When should I define a property? There will be confusion now. Properties also can be defined, indexers also can be. When should I define a property, sir? When should I define an indexer? Generally, when there are huge number of values that you need to, that your class contains, huge number of values that your class contains, writing a property for each one will become lengthy. In that scenarios, we use indexers. Best example I'll tell you. You are working with a database table. When you're working with a database table, do I require to know the number of columns present in the table or not? And this column size is fixed. We know the number of columns in the table, and mostly this column size is fixed. Do we know the number of rows of a table? Come on. Do we know the number of rows in a table? We never know the number of rows in a table. Yeah. How do you know the number of rows? You never know the number of rows in the table. Why? Right. Today 100 rows can be present. Tomorrow another 100 rows can be inserted. Next day 50 rows can be deleted. But will it happen with columns? Today 10 columns, tomorrow 20 columns, next day 15 columns. Columns won't change. What will change? Rows. So we never know the number of rows in the table. So now you understand, guys. Column has a name. Every column has a name. But every row has a name. Does a row has a name? The best way to access rows of a table is by using indexers only. The best way to access the rows of a table is indexer, because we don't have a name there. What we use? Indexers. We use indexers. With the help of the indexers only we will be referring to the rows. But when you come to columns, for columns also we can define indexers. But columns can be accessed with names also. Column has a name. So in that scenario, properties can be defined. You have a limitation for the number of columns, but do you have a limitation for the number of rows in a table? In SQL Server, the number of columns a table can contain is 1024. You can't exceed that. Maximum number of columns is 1024. but you don't have a restriction for the number of rows in your table. Remember that. You can have millions, 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 millions of rows in the table. No issues. So now every row cannot be accessed by using a name. So in that scenarios, what we use is indexers. And for columns, what we use is names. For columns, use names. For rows, use indexers. When the size is limited, properties here. When the size is not limited, then indexers. Okay. Depends on the requirement how you're going to write the code. Fine. One more thing, guys. Right now, all the 5 fields are read write now. See, all the 5 fields are read write. Read and write. But I don't want number to be a write. I want number should be read only. Array, number cannot be changed. I want number to be read only. What to do then? If you want number to be read only, do one thing. What is it? Remove this, guys. Start from 2. Array, start from 2. 1 is not there. So you can't assign a value for 1 now. Is that clear? You can assign value only from 2, 3, 4 and 5. Same thing here also. Come here also and do the same. So you're starting with name, job, salary, status. Now tell me, number is read only or not? Number cannot be modified. If you want read only, that's what you're going to do. In the if condition, we'll skip that. And another important point, guys, never write else. Be careful, never write else. If you write else here, what problem will come here? If you write else here, it will take off number also now. Array, if you try else here, why will it go to status? It will take number also now. So be careful. Here also, if you write else here, what will be the problem? Else means anything will take off. Okay, so that's it. Don't write else. Be careful. Else if only. Don't use else. So here, see, sir, here we used else. Array, in the else I'm returning null value. No problem now. I'm not assigning, I'm getting. For getting, not a problem. For setting only, else will be a problem. For getting, in the else, what you should return? Null. So can't I write like this, sir, without writing else if index is equals to 5, return underscore status means without writing if here, can't I write else return status? No. What is the problem? If you write else return status, tomorrow if I say EMP of 10, EMP of 10 is not there, but still status will come now. That's why I'm telling you, be careful. We have array bound checking for arrays. In the arrays classes you learned, you cannot go beyond the size now. So that's why fix it. Don't use else's here. If I use else, what will come? Null value will come. It won't return you any other things here. So be a bit careful when you're defining the things. So this is indexer overloading. So now you understood what is a indexer. Indexer is also like a property only. Indexer is also like a property only, using which we can expose the values of a class. Okay. And once you define an indexer in your class starts behaving like a virtual array. Virtual array means what did they say? It is not an array, but behaves like an array. Remember, in SQL Server classes, you learned about a concept called views. A view is not a table, but behaves like a table. So we call it as a virtual table. Views are known as virtual tables. Means they are not, but they behave like that. That's what we call as a virtual table. So these are called virtual arrays. Okay, guys, still we have 2 members to understand. What are the 2? Deconstructors, events. And already I said to you, events we are not going to cover here. Events will cover in ASP.NET. In web we'll cover events. So only one thing left out for us. What is that? Deconstructors. So tomorrow we'll understand about deconstructors. Guys, for these properties and indexers, I even posted videos also. Videos are also posted. All these things are there. Maybe any latest feature came, I may not be added. No, 6.0. Oh, no, videos are prepared in 7.0 version. So all things are covered up. All you will find. All you'll be finding up over there. Okay. So properties video is there. Indexers video is there. Deconstructors video is not there. Tomorrow we'll talk on it. Deconstructor video is not there. Reason is that is a 7.3 feature. I made all the videos on 7. In 7.3 deconstructors came. So after that we stopped preparing the videos. So video is not available. But properties also there, indexers also there. Object initializers, I'm not sure, check it out. Object initializers, I'm not sure, guys. Check it out. I'm maybe not there. Object initializer video is not there. I explained you the concept of object initializer. So we don't have video, and also we don't have video for deconstructors, what I'm telling you tomorrow. Okay, let's stop here. We'll meet tomorrow.
Recording stopped.
Singleton class. I said you, I'll say you an MVC. చెప్పండి